Michel Scholte, co-founder and director, True Price and Impact Institute. Please applause. Michel, come here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. It's a
Good
great
luck.
pleasure to stand in front of you. So I'm the co-founder and director of Impact Institute and True Price. Based in Amsterdam, I've been working for 20 years on the question, how can we redefine prices, profits, and returns? Seemingly objective composers of our lives. Businesses pursuing profits, consumers pursuing prices. It's actually leading into crisis. Let me illustrate this through this company that you can see here, the world champion. It's not the drivers of the Formula One that were the world champions in 2022. It was actually Saudi Aramco, the largest oil and gas company in the world. In 2022, they reached a record profit. A profit of 161 billion US dollars when the world was facing a tragic energy crisis. Now, I would like you to stand up if you think that if this oil major, the most profitable company in the world, if this company would have paid $100 per ton of carbon emitted in the whole value chain of that company, $100 per ton of CO2. Stand up if you think that they would make a loss instead of the profit. Stand up if you think that they would make a loss if they would pay $100 per ton of carbon in that 2022 record year. Well, they would. Instead of making a huge profit, they would make a huge loss. A staggering $30 billion dollars of loss. Now, I think this is the heart of the matter. And this is not an elephant in the room. It is a mammoth in the room, or rather a dinosaur in the room. And I think this is the thing that if we do not address the price of pollution, extraction, exploitation, then the tragic outcome of all the nice words, of all the good intentions, will be self-mutilation and the path towards extinction. It is no wonder that after, in my terms, 20 years, 2 decades of talking about addressing climate, pollution and the extraction and pollution and exploitation of workers, we haven't made much progress. We are now exceeding 7 of the 9 planetary boundaries. The most profitable company is also the most destructive in terms of climate. We've talked about risks, and risks are now the new amazing shiny object. Beyond just mitigation, we are now going into adaptation, and risk and resilience is going to save us. Let's not be naive about risks, because look what is risks for an oil rig. If we have extreme weather attacking the assets of an oil major, you have an oil rig extracting oil, emitting greenhouse gases with some extreme weather without actually any intervening of their operations. Risks aren't helping us. And why is that? That is because risk is defined in financial shareholder risks. It's a very important concept. Financial risks may overlap to an extent with social, environmental, and human value, but only to a limited extent. Sadly, natural risk, social risks, human risks, the suffering of people, is not incorporated. Now, why is that? Because the financial accounting system discloses, values, and rewards financial value, the stock of money, the stock of property, of assets. It does not account for and value the natural, the social, and the human value creation. And I would even argue that if we talk about more than 300 billion euros of climate costs, who is sending the invoices? It's actually pretty lucrative to have massive destruction. Rebuilding an economy, a city that is destroyed, is very good for the GDP. It will lead to record growth. Because the fundamental rights to basic goods, the rights to nature, the rights to dignity, it's not accounted for. And therefore, that destruction isn't really valued. Insurance companies, they would benefit from more volatility because the willingness to pay per object and the amount of objects that people want to insure will simply increase. Notwithstanding a global class of suckers that don't have the budget to get an insurance. Who cares? As long as there's sufficient income for dozens of millions of millionaires, it's okay. That is how currently the financial system is configured. So the massive challenge that we should address, and that this conference should be about, and that is at the heart of the question of really addressing the climate catastrophe, is the question of redefining what we value. On the left, you see the current economic definitions, financial value. And the tragedy is, and you can see that with the blue ball, that represents value, social, human, natural value, the stock of what we consider of importance. The current economic system extracts the blue ball and creates finance, the stock of finance. So you see extraction. Now what we need to do is redefine prices, profits, returns, risks, resilience, another buzzword that is poorly defined. And that means in practice, redefining the accountancy frameworks, the Bible of value, the IFRS in Europe and Asia and African countries, the GAAP, the US GAAP, these conventions that actually do not account for nature, but also fiscal policies that incentivizes companies and consumers through financial rewards or penalties into certain directions. The monetary policies that can define interests in accordance with natural capital or social capital creation or destruction. And for example, education policies. In fact, in many jurisdictions, including those in Romania, the concept of a true profit or a true price isn't even taught. Maybe it's a small chapter in economics class called externalities, a very abstract term for a very concrete thing. So we have to address this, and if we don't, really it's just talk. We really have to get into the matter of redefining. And then we can push for true value. Value for everyone, all stakeholders, on all capitals. And then instead of extraction, we can go into regeneration. And that is what you see on the bottom right. You see the same pie of value, and you see in gray that financial value is used to grow social, human, and natural value. And this is regeneration, conceptually visualized. Now let me illustrate how we are working for over 15 years now on the true price movement. Very tangibly and concrete, and give you 5 ways in which entrepreneurs, businesses, investors, and policymakers in Romania can start working with true pricing today. So, from, I would say, Trump prices, we go to true prices. We actually have a supermarket for almost 5 years now in Amsterdam, the Netherlands, where consumers pay for the true price. It's the first supermarket in the world, and you can see here for bananas, cauliflowers, broccoli and carrots that there's a price on the shelves, and you can account for the social and environmental costs, the cost for climate. And these consumers, they pay for these costs. After the introduction, the sales rose 5%, countering all the marketeers that thought we were crazy. 5% increase of sales after introducing true prices. As been alluded to in the previous conversations, many consumers are actually aware, and if they are able, they are willing to pay for the bill to nature. And this money is used, as you can see here, for regenerative farming, cleaning the soil, cleaning the water. The largest supermarket in the Netherlands, Albert Heijn, 40% market share, part of Ahold has introduced true pricing, and they use it as their strategic framework, ensuring that sustainable food and healthy food won't become unaffordable and unhealthy by bringing true pricing into practice. And here you can see at 3 locations a mandatory choice for consumers: buy your coffee, but pay for the true price. You can choose, but you have to choose. And 1 out of 5 consumers chipped in and paid for the true price. That incorporated environmental costs, including climate costs, but also underpayment of farmers in Ethiopia and Brazil. It's a big campaign. We've now 100+ purchase points with the largest retailers in the Netherlands. But also in Germany, 2,150 locations of Rewe, the penny supermarket, one of the largest retailers in the world, have introduced true pricing. And here you saw that red meat consumption decreased. Organic meat consumption decreased too, but less. And alternative plant-based meats increased when in locations that was offered. A staggering 360,000 euros was collected for regeneration, regreening lands at the level of farmers. This is a nice way to really make the business case for greening, for climate-smart agriculture. The nice examples that you saw today, for example, presented to you by Louis. Mega and Profi in Romania are part of the same listed company. Ahold has. I see no reason why we cannot experiment with those examples in Romania, just making it transparent, just knowing what is the invoice that we incur to nature. It doesn't need to be paid overnight. And not just on foods, but also here we did for DBS Bank in Singapore the calculation, and we are talking about, the mobility transition and making Europe great again through competitive net zero electric vehicles. Are we kidding ourselves? We won't make it. We are exchanging maybe some carbon emissions for the next catastrophe that is biodiversity, or that is the pollution of people's lungs through microparticles, through rubbers. We need to think way more innovative and really transcend the old models and exchange it for new models. How do you do this? You look at what is the market price, and you add the social and environmental cost in the whole value chain of a product. And fundamentally, you look at the rights that are ratified by all the countries in the world, including Romania. And you look at what should we do to restore, compensate, prevent, and retribute those costs. And that is simply a calculation. And as long as there's a duty to protect, there's also a duty to pay. I'm not saying that a specific consumer should pay, a specific company should pay, but we have to address this. This is no longer some sort of ideal. This is really a global movement being featured in the New York Times, in the New Yorker. You can find us online. You can find many examples. And there's tangible ways in which Romania businesses can work through procurement. Actually, in the 2016 procurement law, every public procurer in Romania can use it with best practices that you can follow, that we work on with the state of New York or the Dutch government, billions and billions of euros can be kind of repurposed for those products and those services that are environmentally more friendly. Tax repurposing, making sure that red meat is with a higher tax rate than vegetarian alternatives. It's very good for climate and doesn't hit already struggling citizens in their wallet. Transforming accounting, that's the third one. And the fourth one, in the Netherlands, in 2027 at high school, we will examine students on true pricing. It's just transforming education classes. Ha! It's the new normal. Professionals and entrepreneurs of the future will make this their new normal, debunking the objective of what we consider the price. Now, we are 170 members in 30 countries already. I would invite all of you to join the True Price movement. Thank you so much. Let's connect on LinkedIn. You can find my profile. Send me a message if you find it exciting. And let's just make the True Price movement a global movement transforming the economy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michel.
Thank you.